reaching you live from our studio in Lagos, Nigeria. This is iBrand News Now. Coming up, President Muhammadu Buhari sacks top management staff of the Nigerian Social Insurance Trust Fund over alleged 3.4 billion naira fraud. ZAMFARA State Governor Bello Matawalle dissolves State Executive Council with immediate effect. Mali suspended from Economic Community of West African States. More than 55 people killed overnight in 2 attacks in eastern Congo. Many thanks for joining us in News Now. Here are the big stories we are tracking at this hour. My name is Margaret Obara. The President of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, on Monday sacked the top management staff of the Nigerian Social Insurance Trust Fund over alleged 3.4 billion naira fraud. This was contained in a statement released by the spokesman, Ministry of Labour and Employment spokesman, Charles Akpan. The NSITF Managing Director and Chief Executive Bayo Shumafon and the Executive Directors in charge of Finance Jasper, Asutalam, Investment Operations and Administration Tijani Suleiman, and Human Resource Mrs. Olukemi Nelson were also relieved of their positions. Also dismissed were the 9 top management officers hitherto on suspension alongside the MD and the EDs. The decision, which took effect from July 1st, 2020, was sequel to the approval of the recommendations and the report of the Presidential Joint Board and Audit Investigation Panel set up by the President in July 2020 to investigate the infrastructures of the Public Procurement Act 2007 and the financial regulation in the NSITF. The statement further disclosed the officials were sacked on the recommendations of the Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige. President Muhammadu Buhari has also asked the Senate to confirm the appointment of the Major General FAROUK YAHAYA as the Chief of Army Staff. Buhari, in a letter to the President of the Senate, urged the federal lawmakers to give his requests expeditiously. YAHAYA replaced MATAWALLE, a Lieutenant General who was killed in an ill-fated Air Force plane crash alongside 10 other officers of the Army in Kaduna State. Until his appointment, the new Army Chief was the Theatre Commander of Operation Haden-Kai, the counter-insurgency operation in the northeast. Meanwhile, the ZAMFARA State Governor Bello Matawalle has dissolved the State Executive Council with immediate effect. The Governor's Special Advisor on Public Enlightenment and Media and Communications, Zilani Bapa, announced this in a statement. He disclosed that the Secretary to the State Government, as well as the Chief of Staff and the Deputy Chief of Staff to the Governor, were also relieved of their appointment. Governor Matawalle also directed the dissolution of the chairman and members of state commissions, as well as the board of various agencies. He, however, stated that the directive does not affect commissions provided for by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Similarly, Governor Matawalle approved the suspension of the EMIR of DANSADAU, Hussaini Umar, with immediate effect. He therefore directed the district head of DANSADAU, Nasir Muhammad, to oversee the affairs of the emirate. And now, MOBILIZE has returned to Mile 3 Motor Park in PORTHACOURT City Local Government area of Rivers State following an explosion of substance suspected to be dynamite. Some eyewitnesses who spoke with newsmen disclosed that the incident took place at about 6:20 a.m. where traders were bringing goods into the park. Public Relations Officer, River State Police Command SP Nnamdi Omani, confirmed there was an explosion.
Morning we came and we had an explosion around the gates. So when we went to verify what happened, and they found out that there is a girl that carries fish, all this ice fish or whatever. So we found out that the thing exploded right inside her packs. So when we tried to investigate, so we noticed that maybe some of all these fishermen or something like that maybe must have forgotten an explosion in her pockets, in her bags.
I came out this morning to sell as usual. So due to the circumstances of the rain, of the weather, I now brought tire as usual and keep my fish. So all of a sudden, from nowhere, something like a bomb, or how would I put it, now explode. So out of the tire.
Now, the Socialist Party of Nigeria, SPN, has shown support for the mass protests against insecurity and mass poverty organized by the People's Alternative Political Movement, TPAP-M. According to the groups, the state of insecurity has attained a dangerous level as the lives and properties of Nigerians have come under constant threat.
Government has failed totally to provide welfare and security. Nigeria has been turned into a killing field with bloodstains in every part of Nigeria. Children are being kidnapped and killed. Women are being kidnapped and raped. Fathers are being kidnapped. And government is unable to do anything. Nigerians therefore appear helpless. So Nigerians are tired of a state of insecurity.
We need a pan-Nigerian working people political platform that is going to ensure that our government and our society is being run in the interest of the working people. This is not going to be one-off. After today, this campaign continue until when we see an end to the insecurity and mass poverty in Nigeria. A luta continua.
Now, a former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria and ex-presidential candidate Gisli MOGHALU has declared his intention to run for Nigerian presidency again in the 2023 general elections. MOGHALU was a presidential candidate of the Youth Progressive Party in 2019. MOGHALU made this intention to run again known in a statement. MOGHALU states in quote, "There is no hope out of our troubles until Nigeria faces the leadership question and looks for capacity, competence and a compassionate heart for the suffering of the poor," end of quote. He also reaffirmed his ambition to run for presidency, stating that an inclusive national leadership and constitutional restructuring can curb the ongoing violence in the country. Now, the federal government says tobacco users and those with underlying non-communicable disease are at higher risk of severe COVID-19 outcomes. The Minister of Health, Dr. Osagi Ehaniwe, said this in Abuja on Monday at a program organized to mark the World No Tobacco Day with the theme, Commit to Quit. Ehaniwe said the evidence available on the contribution of tobacco to the severity of COVID-19 assisting smokers to quit would improve the way the pandemic was handled. He said the federal government was planning to expand the frontiers in the war against tobacco usage in the country. The part of the strategy where he added were to make tobacco products unaffordable, promote increased awareness on risks and increase access to tobacco cessation services. Now, in other stories, the Chairman Chief Executive of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency NDLEA, Mohammed Buba Mawar, has tasked officers to intensify efforts in the fight against the activities of drug traffickers and cartels in the country. Mawar gave the charge in Abuja while presenting awards and letters of recognition to outstanding commands and officers of the NDLEA for the last 2 months.
The achievements of the past 4 months would not have been possible. We wouldn't have been able to arrest 2,175 drug traffickers. Neither would the seizure of over 2 million kilograms of assorted illicit drugs have been possible if you had chosen to do just the minimum work across the various commands. If our approach has been one of business as usual, we would not have been able to seize drug and cash valued at over 90 billion naira in just 4 months. As we are gathered here today to recognize and applaud you for your outstanding performances, let me also remind you that the reward for good work is more work.
The gunmen suspected to be assassins have killed the registrar of the National Examinations Council, Professor GODSWILL OBIOMA'. OBIOMA' was killed on Monday night when the hoodlums stormed his Minna residence in the Niger state capital. The deceased widow, Mrs. Elizabeth OBIOMA', told newsmen that the assassins came in and killed him and left without taking anything. The 67-year-old indigene of Abia State was appointed NECO registrar in May 2020. OBIOMA'S killing occurred a day after the murder of Adamawa-born politician and ex-presidential aide Ahmed Gulak. Meanwhile, the National Presidential Steering Committee (PSC) on COVID-19 pandemic says the federal government would enforce penalties, including deactivating the travel passport of violators of recent travel advisory for travelers from India, Brazil, and Turkey. The federal government in the last 3 weeks had published names and other travel particulars of more than 220 alleged violators of the travel advisory who evaded protocols set for travelers from the said countries of concern. Now, speaking during the PSC's media briefing in Abuja yesterday, chairman of the committee and secretary to the government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, also said Nigeria has been taking precautionary measures to ensure that the country is kept safe from experiencing a third wave of the pandemic. And according to Mustafa, besides deactivating passports of the Nigerian violators, the foreign offenders would have their visas revoked and prosecution, where applicable, would be an option. Now we'll go on a short break. We'll be right back for more stories. Stay with us.
Powerful looks command respect, they say. The perfect body, the perfect grooming, and ultimately the perfect skin. Looks, style, and grooming makes the ultimate man. Found a ridiculously easy way to make my skin always feel epic. My name is Neo. I found Blemiviv, and now my skin finally makes sense.
Welcome back. And now on the Africa scene, Mali has been suspended from the West African Regional Bloc, the Economic Community of West African States. The decision was announced after an emergency meeting of the bloc's leaders in Accra, Ghana on Sunday. Ghana's Foreign Affairs Minister, Shelley Portray, told journalists that the Mali's junta non-adherence to the mediatory role of ECOWAS necessitated the decision of ECOWAS leaders. ECOWAS envoy, former Nigerian President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, had briefed the meeting behind closed doors on his meditatory trip to Mali last week. A communique released after the meeting stated that an extraordinary summit was convened to review the socio-political crisis in Mali following the arrest, detention, and subsequent resignations of the President and the Prime Minister of the transition on May 26, as well as to determine the next line of action for the transition. Now, at least 55 people were killed overnight in 2 attacks on villages in eastern Congo, the United Nations said on Monday. It potentially the worst night of violence the area had seen at least 4 years. The army and local civil rights group blamed the Allied Democratic Forces (ADF), an Islamic armed group, for raiding the village of Chabi and a camp for displaced people near Boga, another village. Both were close to the border of Uganda. Houses were burned and civilians abducted, the UN Office for Humanitarian Affairs said in a statement. Albert Basego, the head of the civil rights group in Boga, told Reuters by telephone that he was elected to attack by the sound of cries at the neighbor's house. Now moving on to the foreign scene, Taiwan reported 327 domestic COVID-19 cases on Tuesday, including 65 cases added to the totals for recent days as it continues to readjust its infection numbers following delays in reporting positive tests. Taiwan's government has signed deals with 2 local companies to provide up to 20 million doses of their COVID-19 vaccine, the official Central News Agency said on Sunday, in a boost to the island's pandemic fight. The news comes days after the Chinese claimed island blamed Beijing weak for blocking a deal earlier this year for BioNTech vaccines, which China's denied. Away from that, still on the foreign scene, North Korea ruling party has amended its rules to create a de facto second-in-command under leader Kim Jong-un as it looks to revamp domestic politics, South Korea's Yonhap News Agency said on Tuesday. Citing an unidentified source familiar with North Korea, the agency said the holder of the new post of First Secretary would chair meetings on behalf of Kim Jong-un. Kim cemented his power at the Congress of the Workers' Party of Korea, WPK, in January when he was elected as General Secretary, taking a title last held by his late father, Kim Kong II. Now, Kim wants a greater role in government for the party as compared to more military-centered administration of his father, the news agency added. Up next with sports with Jidechi.
Welcome to the Sports Update. I am Jidechi Chidi. Now, Super Eagles head coach Gernot Ross says Victor Osimhen and Simi Nwankwo and 6 defenders are out of the friendly game against Cameroon. Out of the 24 players summoned for the outings in Austria on June the 4th and June the 8th, 7 players have informed the national team coach of their inability to make the trip due to injuries. The injured players are Victor Osimhen, Crotone Simi Nwankwo, Porto Zaidu Sanusi, West Brom's Semi Ajayi, Fulham's Ola Aino, Benfica's Tyrone Ebuehi, and Hoffenheim's Kevin Akpoguma. Ross hopes of preparing the Super Eagles for the 2022 World Cup with this month's friendlies now hinges on the selected few who are still in England. Otherwise, the Cameroon friendly might be called off. And in other stories, Aruna Quadri has earned the bet to represent Nigeria at the table tennis event of the Olympic Games in Tokyo. The 32-year-old secured the qualification by virtue of his position on the International Table Tennis Federation Olympic qualifying ranking as at June the 1st. And this development was announced on Twitter page of the ITTF Africa on Tuesday. Quadri would be joining the likes of Olajide Omotayo, Edem Ofyong, and Funke Oshonaike as Nigeria's representatives in the table tennis events at the Olympics. Tokyo will be Quadri's 3rd Olympics, having previously represented the country in London 2012 and Rio 2016. And that's all for now on the Sports Update. Back to you in the studios.
Many thanks, Jidechi. Coming up is business news. Now, the European Union, EU, is set to unveil plans for a block-wide digital wallet on Wednesday, following requests from member states to find a safe way for citizens to access public and private services online, the Financial Times reported. The app will allow citizens across the EU to securely access a range of private and public services with a single online ID, according to the FT report on Tuesday. The digital wallets will securely store payment details and passwords and allow citizens from all 27 countries to log onto local government websites or pay utility bills using a single recognized identity, the newspaper said, citing people with direct knowledge of the plans. The EU-wide app can be accessed via fingerprint or retina scanning, among other methods, and will also serve as a vault where users can store official documents like the driver's license, the newspaper reported. Now, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation on Monday said it is currently considering equity participation in some private refineries across the country. It was in line with the federal government's policy directive, which stipulated the mandatory participation of the corporation in any privately owned refinery that exceeded 50,000 barrels per day capacity. The corporation stated it had identified at least 6 refinery projects in which it had intentions to seek equity participation. It said 5 of them were at the development stage, with the Dangote refinery being the largest of all. A statement issued in Abuja by the corporation spokesman, Kenny Obateru, explained that NNPC, as a national oil company of Nigeria, primarily had a dual role of providing stewardship for the nation's hydrocarbon resources. He also said the corporation had the role of adding value to the country's resources for the benefit of all Nigerians and other stakeholders. Still in business news, the federal government on Monday disclosed that out of 7,000 oil reserves that have been discovered in the country, only 1,700 of the reserves are currently producing crude oil. The government disclosed this in Abuja through the Department of Petroleum Resources. It, however, stated that measures were being put in place to produce oil from additional reserves in order to achieve the 40 billion barrels oil reserve target of the government. And according to the department, Nigeria had capacity to produce about 3 million barrels of crude oil daily. Now, crude oil production in Nigeria had revolved around 1.4 million barrels per day, following the production cut recommended by the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. Before the decision by OPEC and its allies to cut down crude production, Nigeria was producing around 2 million barrels of oil per day. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation has also said crude oil exports proceeds plunged by 98% in April compared to March. The NNPC said in a report that the total revenue from crude oil exports in April fell to 723 million naira from 35.72 billion naira generated in March. According to NNPC, in quotes, no remittance to Federation accounts in April for May 2021 FAAC due to recorded value shortfall resulting from difference between the landing cost and ex-coastal price of premium motor spirit recorded in March 2021, end of quote. The corporation said it lifted 7.62 billion naira barrels of crude oil in March compared to 10.79 billion in February and exported 66.67 million barrels. NNPC also noted the country maintained 1.52 million barrels per day production quota as agreed during the previous meeting of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries. And on this note, we call it a wrap on News Now. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on all our social media platforms for more updates. My name is Margaret Opera.